Thank you to Twitch for sponsoring today's video. Unless you've been living under a rock for a very long time, Twitch is a live streaming interactive platform where you can get a deeper experience with all of the games that you love and enjoy playing, as well as of course watching. You can connect with other creators, like-minded players, and just people that you want that awesome sense of community with. You can see all types of streamers on Twitch. Maybe you're like me and you always want to get better at League of Legends and see how you can improve, and no other place has more high-ranked and high-elo players than Twitch. You can tune into any Grandmaster or Challenger stream and learn so much from seeing how they play. With the new League of Legends season just starting in the last couple of days, there's no better time than right now to start learning how to improve and watch streamers on Twitch. And if you truly do want to learn from the best, who else could be better for you than Faker? Watching Faker on Twitch is always a treat. And the best part is, even if you don't speak Korean, that's okay because there is a translator, sometimes in the chat, but also on screen, which is totally awesome because that really shows the sense of community and really allows us all to connect and talk to Faker. I always learn so much from watching this guy play the game. Even if you're not a mid lane main, you can always learn how to be better at the game, how to CS better, how to watch for your teammates, how to avoid getting ganked by the jungler. That's what's so awesome about watching him on Twitch. The best part about Twitch is that you never know what kind of moment you'll come across while watching. The sense that one of the funniest, coolest, and most amazing moments in gaming is right around the corner, that's an awesome feeling. At this point, if you weren't already interested in watching gaming streams on Twitch, you definitely should be now, so click that link in the description down below, and big thank you one more time to Twitch for sponsoring this video. There is no question that Faker will go down in esports history. In League of Legends, no one else has been this good for this long. It might be clear that right now he's not at his peak anymore, but that's okay, because nobody can withhold the title of best player in the world forever. We all age, we all slow down, we all have off games and off seasons. That's just life. Even still, he is regarded as a top-tier player for the upcoming season, and there might be some others that are in competition for the best player in the world, but no one else is as well respected as Faker. He has never been just the best player in an already good system. He has always been an inventor, a revolutionary, someone who not only makes it incredibly hard to play against him, but also changes the way that we see this game. There are so many good Faker stories that I can make an entire hour-long episode just talking about his accomplishments. But today, I'd like to hone in on one time in Faker's history. And in fact, it's right near the beginning. It was sort of his calling to greatness, the time where he had a chance to show the world just how good that he was, and he not only delivered on that promise, but overperformed and outclassed everyone. This is the story of how Faker changed League of Legends forever with Riven mid lane. First off, Faker started playing Riven mid even before Worlds of that year. Remember, at that time, Faker, SKT, and Korea in general really wasn't that well known by the rest of the world just yet. This was the beginning of 2013, and sure, Korea did reach the finals of the Season 2 World Championship, but they didn't win. They eventually lost to Taipei Assassins out of Taiwan, and Korea would come up in second place. Point is, people did respect Korea. After all, it was still the esports capital of the world, but for League of Legends, it was not at the level that it quite is now. The first Korean team to win Worlds was SKT, and Faker was a part of that roster, and their dynasty began in 2013. Faker was an up-and-coming mid-lane star, as their team of misfits was not seen as a favorite at the start of the year, but by the end of the season, they were already known to be one of the best. Faker had proven to everyone that he was an unmatched mechanical talent, an incredibly smart player who revolutionized so many things about the game that we now take for granted, and things that we just see as facts these days. Inventing new mid lane strategies was a huge part of what made Faker so good and so well respected, but it was also his incredibly diverse champion pool and pick and ban strategy. He was known as the mid laner who could play anything, even champions that weren't necessarily known for going mid, and that's where Riven comes in. Riven was released in 2011 and had been in the game for nearly 2 years at this point. At first, she was released and she wasn't that good. Having very low numbers and damage overall, she was seen as buggy and a little bit clunky to play. After some nice buffs, she would end up being a solid top laner for solo queue and had a few appearances in competitive, but honestly was not known for being good at the highest level. More often than picking Riven, if your team needed a fighter, Aurelia in the top lane was a much better choice. She was a heavy favorite by the pros and high elo players over all of the other fighters, and her popularity was massive. It was decently understood that Riven was weird to play because you had to weave these auto attacks in between your spells. It seemed like a less viable and more difficult option than some other bruisers, but instead, Faker would take the champion in stride. At this time, Riven was not known for having these insane mechanics, animation cancels, and finding ways to get damage off quicker like she does today. At first, she was just seen as clunky, awkward, and way too niche. But then, as the seasons went on, Riven players started popping up, guys like BoxBox, MegaZero, and The Shy. These guys proved that after picking her up and learning her, it could reward you with some amazing results. But she still was not normalized at all. There were players who did understand Riven, but the idea of being this animation canceling champion was not very well understood. Faker, though, he seemed to master her, and quite quickly. Faker's Riven just seemed to do so much damage, more than usual, and that's mainly because of his use of her passive and the Q. He essentially proved what was possible on the champion when mastered, and he showed everybody that Riven is a good champion so long as you learn how to auto attack and weave in your spells. This today is known as Riven's fast combo: auto attack Q, auto attack Q, auto attack Q. You get the idea, and more often than not, anyone who plays Riven is a complete expert at this today because this mechanic is very normal now. After enough practice, it's easy enough to get the hang of. It'll just take some time.
For any fans who weren't watching League of Legends 2 years ago or weren't familiar with how Faker revolutionized Riven play, it wasn't taking it to the mid lane, it was just understanding the animation cancelling that most players didn't even know was possible with Riven. The amount of damage that he was able to get out through auto attacks specifically, queuing them up during animations, is what separated him from other Riven players and now very much the norm, and it's why one of this pick is so seminal to Faker. He just revolutionized mid lane Riven and Riven in general as a champion.
Another mechanic that he had mastered was comboing your Q with other spells. In this example, he flashes on the Kennen and couples his Wind Slash with the Q, which again was not something seen by players at the time that often. But all of this would beg the question, why mid lane? Because Riven overall was seen as a top laner. The answer that feels easy is just to say that Faker was the mid laner, so of course he would take her mid. But that's not really the reason that Faker started playing Riven. He had picked her up because he knew something that nobody else knew. It was a great counter pick for mid lane. He found out that Riven mid could be used as a counterpick to two very popular mid lane champions during that era, which were Zed and Gragas.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that. Faker likes to play Riven into Gragas.
Yeah, he does. And there's a Mundo, actually.
He has picked Riven into Gragas before, and yep, that's exactly what's coming out.
There it is.
He did it against Ryu. Rings, and Faker going hard early. He's a level off.
Look at that, man. He's going hand. There's the Ignite. Dane flashes Faker with the flash as well. First blood goes to Faker, and he gets out clean.
Well, Della, I wondered if you picked Gragas that early, this is exactly what the KT Bullets did, and Faker loved that counter pick. Ryu had a really...
To this day, Riven still smashes Zed mid, and this has pretty much always been an extremely favorable matchup for her. He never really bursts you hard enough to cut through your shield, and the CC and damage that Riven provides is more than enough to burst him and kill him. Unless you're completely outclassed, this is a really easy win for the Riven. For Gragas, remember at the time this was AP Gragas mid, which of course did tons of damage, but was equally as squishy. Riven's strong early game and extreme mobility could easily bully out a Gragas and force him to back off from the wave, and if the Gragas would try to combo you, you could beat him by using Q and E to dodge his barrels. We would see Faker do very well on Riven during OGN 2013, and heading into Worlds 2013, Faker and SKT would travel to America and start practicing in NA solo queue during the tournament. This is when Faker's name would officially be put on the map, and it was all because of one champion, Riven, and the legend of Barcode Killer.
I would probably say that I would be interested in playing Faker. He's the mid laner for SKT1. He's super hyped up. I watch him play very often. I think he's very good, and I think that'd be a tough match to play against.
If we play against Faker, I think that'd be a very enjoyable game, because I'm either going to get dumpstered mid and learn something new, or I'll do fine and still learn something new.
Faker just takes lanes that might not be as one-sided as people think, and he just dominates them. Everybody knows he's good, and I want to see how we match up against him.
So while it'd be nice to play them, I don't necessarily want to meet them early. Maybe like in the finals or something.
See Reggie get murdered, right?
Yes.
You ready for that? I'm ready.
Oh, very strong word.
Yeah, I talked to Reggie as well, and he said yes, or the last time he played against Faker was a mortal versus a god, and this time he's gonna make God bleed.
Farm going on. Reginald putting some pressure down, but Faker actually turning down a lot of damage. Reginald goes aggressive, pushes the ultimate, gonna get caught out. Faker gets him down.
The Riven mid counterpick to champions like Zed and Gragas proved deadly. Faker would go on to win Worlds, capturing SKT in Korea's first League of Legends title. Of course, this would spawn SKT's dynasty, but the popularity of Riven mid didn't stop there, because her true power was discovered right at the end of Season 3, which means that everyone else was preparing for Season 4 and started to learn the champ. During Season 4, we would see plenty of mid laners attempt to learn Riven and even pick her in competitive matches, as she would be a huge flavor of the month pick. And I don't just mean that their mechanics were bad or something like that, because Riven was so OP that you could make her work even at an average level, but mid laners that you would never expect to play her would in competitive games. Cloud9's High would even lock in the Riven mid, of all people. It didn't even fit his playstyle or the way that he liked to play the game, and it showed. He wasn't very successful, but people thought that Riven was so OP, and rightfully so, that everyone and their mother was playing Riven. Faker would spawn this cesspool of Riven mid enthusiasts both in solo queue and Riven players in general, and if you wanted to know why everyone back in the day hated this champion and hated the players who mained her, it's probably all Faker's fault. With so many different wannabes in both solo queue and pro, only a few could replicate his results on the champ, and that's what makes Faker such an incredible player. He was somebody that could literally change the meta all by himself by doing something that no one else did, and then on top of that, do better than all of his copiers. Let's finish off with one last moment before we wrap up. We would see it one more time in 2015, this time in the LCK finals. The Riven mid would be locked in one more time versus KT because he thought that Gangplank was going mid. Gangplank at the time was the new best champion in the game, as he was just recently reworked into a monster of a champion, but Faker knew that Riven could do quite well into him, remembering the days of how he used her as a counterpick. However, KT was ready, and they pulled a fast one on Faker, and they locked in Cassiopeia for mid lane instead, which of course is a terrible matchup for Riven, and then sent the GP to the top lane. Now, Faker was screwed, and he had to lane versus Cass, but Faker didn't care, because he is Faker.
By KT, meanwhile Faker goes after Nagne. Can he finish well? Flash, trying for it, gets him with the ult! Gets out.
There really is no one more iconic in League of Legends than this guy. He has so many stories, a legacy that is unmatched, and has changed the game forever in plenty of different ways. The more that you learn about Faker, the more you remember all of the great things that he's done throughout his career, the more the title of greatest of all time starts to become attached to him and more of a no-brainer. No one was, has been, and probably will be better than Faker in his prime. Even if League of Legends dies as a game in Season 10, we won't be done saying Faker's name for a very long time. This is a guy who can turn down 10 million in a blank check simply because his loyalty to Korea is that strong. That's not just respectable, but that's the thing that legends do. A guy who has accomplished so much and honestly at this point should be taking money, but chooses not to because that's just who Faker is and that's what Faker does. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.